Hey guys, what's up? Unrested, back again. If it's your first time here on the channel, I am Unrested and I cover a lot of questions known as JFAQ, Japan's frequently asked questions. If you're thinking about moving, traveling, getting a job, or transferring your entire life over to Japan, this is the channel for you. I try to help everyone as far as getting their stuff in order and setting up the situation that will allow you to achieve your dreams in Japan. If you have any questions about that, just put them in the comments down below and your question may turn into a future video. Getting into it today, I often do things about what you should avoid doing in order to not annoy the Japanese, or just being in Japan in general, and what general rules are to be considered and be considerate of. But what about you, the gaijin, the gaikokujin, the foreigner, the outsider, the stranger? What might annoy you? I'm going to take these from my own personal subjective experience and from ones friends have told me about as well. But most of us who have lived in Japan for a year or more, I'm going on 16 years at this point, know these very well and have probably faced them on multiple occasions, to the point that maybe if they get asked once or twice or noticed by you once or twice on a short 3-month trip on a tourist visa, won't really bother you. But if you do decide to live in Japan, these might really grind your gears. So let's get into them. And these are I've kind of done a sort of a gradient scale of like starting from not such a big deal down to like, okay, this starts to really, get on your nerves. The seat bubble, when you sit down on a train and everybody gets up and moves away from you. And I don't really have a massive problem with this myself. I do understand why other people do, because it does make you really feel like the outsider when you take a seat on a public train and then suddenly everybody gets up and leaves that seat. I've had it where both the person on the left and the right of me have gotten up and left. This is sometimes based on racism. This is based on xenophobia. There's no question about that. But there is times where this comes into play because the person is afraid you might ask directions or ask them for help getting somewhere or ask them a question in English, and they're nervous about their English ability. So this is kind of a gray area when this happens. I really don't mind it that much because it just means I have more room to sit down. I never try to, man spread or, put my backpack on the seat, which is like super rude to do. Don't do that. Instead, I just kind of, sit there, look at my phone, read my book, play my game, whatever I'm doing, and just ignore the fact that an entire aisle has moved out of the way. It's not a big deal to me, but it does really, make some people realize, once again, you are definitely the outsider. So I can understand how it can get on people's nerves. The next one is one you will hear again and again and again. Like, the first time you hear it, you're like, oh, wow, this is great. And then after you hear it a second time and a third time, and then ad infinity to the point of nausea, Nihongo jouzu. Nihongo jouzu. Your Japanese is so good. You are so skilled at Japanese, even though you've learned to speak like 3 words. No matter how bad or how good my Japanese was, I would always get Nihongo jouzu, which I understand most times it is Japanese people just excited that you've attempted to speak their language, as many are, like I said, nervous or shy about speaking English. But it does get to a point of being very patronizing. If I've introduced myself, if I've just done a simple jiko shokai of introduction and just simply said my name in Japanese, konnichiwa, Scott desu, don't automatically answer that with Nihongo jouzu. I've literally said, hi, my name's Scott. I would feel like I was really mocking someone if the reverse happened. If the first time I met a Japanese person, they're like, hi, I'm Takahiro. I'd be like, whoa, Takahiro, your English is so good. He'd be like, yeah, great. Okay, thanks. Thanks. So it does kind of start to grind your gears. Where you're like, you don't even know what I can say yet. You don't even know what I understand. I might be the dumbest dum-dum you've ever met when it comes to Japanese. Why don't we give ourselves a chance to get to know each other better before we start dropping, huge compliments on our skills and different stuff. I don't know. As an American, it feels very strange to get a compliment right away as you open your mouth and speak 1 or 2 words. You're kind of like, what are you talking about, Nihongo jouzu? Are you mocking me? Like it almost, and look, I know it's not. I know it's not Japanese trying to be like, oh, you're so good at Japanese. Look at you, big foreigner, speaking the baby words. I understand it's not that, but it's kind of to a point where almost every time I met someone for the first few years in Japan, definitely around 2007 to 2013, I got that over and over and over again. And you're just kind of like, oh, okay, buddy. Um, we have not even had a conversation. I've merely introduced myself. I think that this has kind of been something Japanese have gotten more away from. They kind of realize, like, oh, if a person's come here and lived long enough that they can speak like quite a bit of Japanese, that's kind of an impolite thing to say. I think we'll back off from that. But it was something that kind of silently grinded my gears, and many, many, many others in Japan. You won't really understand that one, I think, until you've lived there 2 years or more, where you're just like, okay, Nihongo jouzu, really? Again? My Japanese is so great. Okay, whatever. I speak like a baby. Stop. Um, the next one was always a weird one. And whenever I tell people about this, they're like, did people really say that to you? Is that really true? Yes, yes. And this was like people like in education, in career paths that I went down. It wasn't really like random people on the street, but it was something like my students' parents would ask me stuff like this, and it would be, "Is that your real hair, your real eyes, or your real nose?" The real hair, I guess, was okay. You could have dyed your hair. That makes sense. Although my hair is like the same color as Japanese hair, I feel like. So I've never understood that one. Like, is that your real hair color? Wow. Like, I'm not blonde. I'm not sure why this is an exciting hair color. Real eyes. I don't know why I would get asked this one, because if you've ever seen someone wear blue contacts when they have brown eyes, it definitely does not look like they have blue eyes, right? Like, I mean, I guess I have more like hazel eyes, whatever. It's not that important. What's important is that my eyes are a different color from brown, and I got asked so many times if this was my real eyes or if I was wearing contacts, and I wasn't like, gosh, that's really offensive. What the hell? I would just be like confused. Like, why would you think I'm wearing contacts right now? Do you think I have just like pupilless eyes that are white like the X-Men, and I've popped in contacts to appear human? Like, what are we talking about here? The last one of like, did I get plastic surgery to get my nose, was kind of pushing the barrier of like, what are we talking about here? What is this? Is this my real nose? Do I look like I've like had plastic surgery on my nose? That was a really weird one. I always got the hanatakai, hanatakai. You have a proud nose, like your nose being like long or having a strong bridge is something that is seen as cosmetically beautiful to the Japanese, aesthetically beautiful to a symmetrical face. I've never really thought of my nose in that manner. It's just a nose. But I did get asked a lot about my nose, which people really, when I tell people about that, other gaijin, when I tell Japanese, they're like, oh yeah, of course, because hanatakai. But when I tell other gaijin about that, they're like, really, your nose? They kept asking if your nose was real, and I was like, yeah, I don't know what they thought was going on with my nose. I got asked if it was plastic surgery, like, is this your real nose you were born with? And it's just like, yeah, we don't really do a lot for our noses in America. We're not like getting tons of rhinoplasty, I think it's called. Or maybe we are, I don't know. Maybe in California that's a big deal. All right, the next one does get into a pretty annoying situation where I was always, I don't mind small talk, but the unwanted conversation, that's never a fun one. You're on a train, and the person next to you wants to do more than just ask you a few polite questions. Where are you from? What are you here doing in Japan? They would start asking you like personal stuff, where you're just like, yo, I don't know what you've heard about Americans, but we don't just start spilling our guts to like random people. Are you married? Do you have a girlfriend? Do you have kids here? Where's your house? Like, did you move here? When are you going back to your country? I don't want to answer this stuff to someone I just met on a train. The worst one I ever had was playing on a Nintendo DS with my headphones in a park, chilling. I was on a break at work, and a guy came up to me and just started asking me all these questions, and like I had the headphones in and he's like talking to me. I didn't even notice for a while, and he was like, oi oi, and then like just started asking me like all these personal questions, and I'm like, audit, who are you? Like, I maybe answered like one. I'm like, yeah, I'm from America, and then I like put the headphone back in and went back to my game. And he did try to ask more, but I just pretended like I couldn't hear. It was so weird, and I had that happen like more than once. There's like nice ones where people come up to me and they ask like what your tattoo is and where you got it at, and it's usually other Japanese people who've gotten tattoos. They're just so excited and happy to see another person with tattoos because it is considered still kind of taboo in the country. So they're just like, ooh, I can talk to a person about tattoos. I really get a chance to do this. Um, and I feel like that's 100% just being nice, like just being excited about a shared love of something. But the whole like investigating me of like, why are you here right now in this park? And it's just like, that's none of your business. Leave me alone. I'm on break. I'm eating my lunch right now. I don't know you. And I've asked people that before, like, who are you? Like, I had one time where I parked my bike, and like this Obachan asked me, like, are you sure you're allowed to park your bike at this park? And I'm like, I pointed to all the other bikes parked there. I'm like, yeah, just like these bikes. And she's like, yeah, but like, do you live in this neighborhood? And I'm like, yeah. And then I'm like, why are you like the security? I said, anatta wa keibi desu ka? Like, are you a security guard here? And she's like, no, I'm just a resident. And I said, hi, bokumo. Like, me too. I'm just a resident here. Like, and then, just rude. Like, you don't know me. Don't start asking me personal questions like this. It's none of your business. That's the unwanted conversation. The especially annoying one is like when you have headphones in and you're like, dude, leave me alone. All right. I'm obviously here to just enjoy whatever I'm looking and listening to. I would never bother a Japanese person on the train being like, hey, excuse me, can you stop watching your YouTube videos? I've got a couple personal questions about your life here in Japan. They look at you like you were an alien because you are. But I mean, they would really give you like, they'd be like, don't, go away. Don't bother me. And sometimes Japanese people, I guess, are shocked when we do that. I don't know why. Mind you, this is probably like, this doesn't happen every day, but it did happen where I'm just like, don't stop. No, get away. I think this may come from people reading about that Americans are like more open about their private life or, more happy to start louder conversations in public, which we do. We talk more in public. We, introduce ourselves, ask each other how we're doing more in public, I think, than on average in Japan. But we don't just start grilling each other on personal identification and stuff like that, which I think may confuse some Japanese people. It's a rare occasion, but it does happen. The next up is the free lesson. The free lesson. You may be tempted, and I think it's a good idea to start private lessons. You can make a lot more money by doing that. And private lessons allow you to put your feelers out there for anyone and everyone to find your ad online or the page that you've signed up to that is a English learning website, whatever. And you'll meet up with them maybe in a public area, maybe at a coffee shop, wherever you choose. And to schedule the lessons, you usually exchange information, your phone number, your email, your SMS, whatever it is, line. But I had at least 2 different students who decided that now that they had my contact, they could call me whenever they wanted to get an answer about something. They had a question in English. For example, I had one that would call me every time they watched a new movie and be like, have you seen this movie, Ackerman Sensei or Scott Sensei? And what do you think of this and this? And I'd be like, we can talk about this in the next lesson when I'm on the clock. And they'd be like really shocked, like, but I thought you really liked that movie. You said in the last lesson you really like it. I'm like, I do, but I don't want to talk about it right now in my free time. I'm hanging out with my family. I had this really only happen 2 or 3 times. And I will say it was mostly older men like my age or older that were my Japanese students. The most polite, friendly, and most fun students I've ever had to teach were old ladies, obachans, who were ultra polite, excited to learn, and minded their own business. But there was some strange salarymen who I would teach, and they would like call me randomly to ask me all kinds of English questions. Like I had one who called me and asked me who my favorite porn actress was, and I thought, this is incredibly inappropriate. Do not call me asking me stuff like this. I don't know you or want to talk to you about anything like this. And this is not appropriate for a lesson either. Do not call me back. I had to eventually cancel that guy completely. He got way too weird. But yeah, like the weird, like, oh, you've taught me a lesson now. We're BFFL. Yikes, weird. And last but not least, and this is kind of the hardest, although it's not really something the Japanese do, it's just kind of the way Japan is. I'm not blaming Japan for this, is camaraderie at work. There's not a lot of camaraderie going on at work. You don't really socialize a lot with the people you work with. You never really get to learn a lot about them unless you've worked with them for many, many years. And you never feel like you have each other's back, or there's a closeness, or that they'll ever understand your situation as a gaijin with no safety nets at all in Japan. And that always kind of leaves you very isolated at work. And that can be really hard long term. I talk to a lot of friends who still live there, who still work jobs there, and they've asked me what the best thing is about moving back to America and only coming to Japan during the summer. And I said, when I'm there in the summer, I don't have to work. I'm just, I'm still getting paid for my job here. But when I'm here and I'm working, I can talk to everyone at work. And that tiny bit of small talk, just asking, like, what did you do over the weekend? Or, do you want to hang out, grab a beer after work or something, and talk about, like, how rough the week was or something like that. You can do easily with someone you work with. But in Japan, it takes, you may get there. Deca wanted to make an appearance. You can get there eventually. It is possible, but usually you'd have to work at a place for 3 to 5 years before you got any, like, really close friends. Like, the closest I ever got to any people I worked with, it was only after I had re-signed contracts, like, multiple times, and they're like, oh, you're not just going back to America. Well, we'll consider you possibly an actual employee here we'll talk to. And that kind of always, it makes work kind of hard. The workday is a lot easier when you can, just exchange a few jokes. You don't have to sit there and chat nonstop and not paying attention to your job. But it's nice to just be like, hey, how you doing today? You hanging in there? Yeah, okay. Like, that small talk like that goes a long, long way. And you really don't realize it until it's eliminated completely from your daily work. So those are some of the more annoying things that gaijin may experience while living in Japan. These are not, dream crushers, showstoppers are trying to dissuade you from living in Japan. As I say, go for your dreams no matter what. Don't let anything I make or say or put on here stop you from that, dissuade you from that. But I do always try to keep a very realistic view of what life actually is like when you want to live there long term. If you have any questions or you want to share some stories about you experiencing some of these same things today in the comments below, I'd really like it. If you liked what you saw, please hit that like button. If you don't like it, also hit the dislike button. That helps a lot too. Otherwise, I hope you have a great rest of your day. If you want to ask more or hang out with me later, I'll be on stream later tonight taking your questions, talk to you one-on-one, and just hang out with you guys as an audience as I'm currently on spring break and get a chance to finally chill out a little bit. I'll be happy to do that with you guys soon. Talk to you again tomorrow if you're a member.